Welcome to Hacking the Hustle. This is your host, Benjamin Sklar. Really excited to have my friend Cody Norton on the podcast. How you doing, Cody?
I'm good. How are you? Good
I'm
morning
doing-
to you.
Yeah, good morning. So for those listening, Cody is the co-founder of Ignite the Spark, which is a really fascinating, interesting, growing community in Israel focused on energy tech. And I'm really excited to have him on the show today to talk about energy innovation, what's going on in Israel, and what it's like to be an American working in a foreign country. How does that sound, Cody?
That sounds good. And I think we'll pepper in maybe a little bit of my story and we'll go from there as well.
Fantastic.
Thank you for having me also. This is really cool. Happy that we got connected through a mutual friend. So I'm Cody, I'm 29. I'm just an average guy growing up in LA. Went to Indiana University where I studied economics and I was in the Keller School of Business. My background's a little mixed. I come from a Holocaust survivor as my grandfather. And he made it all the way to LA. He was able to escape in 1939, which I'll explain a little bit later. Why that's so important is, and for me as a professional, my dad is Mexican Catholic, so it's definitely two cultures that are very different. So that creates duality, and that's taking everything into my professional life, my personal life, being able to manage both. I, after graduating, went and became an alcohol drug abuse counselor, so nothing to do with energy tech at all or business related. I wanted to help people. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have impact. Realizing that you're not always having the impact that you want, and it was draining. I then started in solar, and then being a Jew, Israel always fascinates me. I think it fascinates the world. It's polarizing, whether you're for Israel, against Israel, it doesn't really matter. In my eyes, people are people, and the things that are happening here in Israel are, from a business perspective, that's the branding of Startup Nation, because it really is. You could be working with 3 different startups and having your own startup and thinking of different ideas and networking and connecting. So when I moved here in 2018, I was brought on by a private consulting company. They focus mostly on sports tech and that realm, but they were looking to get into the energy tech space. And I had a little bit of background in it, and I have the business background, so they brought me in to launch their energy side. It ended up that I helped them launch an innovation center based in the city of Hadera, which is about halfway from Tel Aviv and Haifa, which I think most people may know those 2 major cities if you think of Israel. So it was about halfway there. We launched the center. I was managing director of it, and it was half with the municipality and the economic development company of Hadera, and the other half was with the private consulting company. The idea is make it an energy tech city, bringing in, using the city for pilots, having startups there, part of an accelerator, be able to do some investments. But at the same time, I didn't have the background. I didn't have the military service. My Hebrew is still not the best. So when I first came in, it was definitely a barrier of entry. And I needed the network. I don't have family here in Israel. So at the end of the day, I met another individual. He came to the launch of the Innovation Center. So you had economic attaches, you had ambassadors, other mayors. It was a big event. He came in ripped jeans with paint stains. So I walked up to him thinking that this is just some guy who walked in from off the street. But he actually was introduced to him. I thought he just came in for free food and drink, get introduced to him. He has his own idea for a startup. He just got back from spending time in Australia. And we met, and we both were young professionals growing, and we wanted to bring everyone together in terms of energy tech and innovation. There were different organizations that were here and there, but there was no central town hall. That's what we call it. So we founded Israel's energy tech innovation community. So in our first event, we just brought everyone together. We wanted to see, as an entrepreneur, as someone that's working with the Israel Innovation Authority or the Ministry of Economy or Ministry of Energy, investors, we want to see what they need. How do you define energy tech? So the one thing about Israel, if the listeners don't know, is that it's very common to have these communities. It's you could have different innovation communities for fintech, e-mobility is a big one, agriculture, the list goes on and on. Because Israel is such a small country, they then can bring everyone together. And compared to if you have companies on the West Coast and then companies in the same field on the East Coast, maybe you get them for a conference. But in Israel, you could do meetups and very frequently, and you could talk about different things. So in 2019 in April, we founded it. It's now been 2.5 years and change that we started this organization. We've had over 50 different meetups, and it's ranging from very micro and very specific. For example, getting the CEOs of battery storage, energy storage companies, all the CEOs together and figuring out what they need. What resources can we provide them? How can they help each other? How can we soft lobby for them so they could play in their backyard? Because for a lot of Israeli companies, they view Israel as a small market. Maybe you do a little POC, you start and just so you have the data, and then you go to Europe, Asia, you go somewhere else, and the US, obviously, in North America. But we want, in terms of energy, Israel doesn't share with their neighbors energy. There's no energy trading. It's an island. Compared to California, where you can go from different municipalities and borrow energy. If you can go to Arizona, Nevada, and trade energy that way. For Israel, it's completely self-reliant on itself. There's goals 2030, 2050 for renewables and carbon and net carbon. So you have all of this. So we brought everyone together, and we then can help startups grow, get investment, connect them to multinational corporates, other utilities. So an event, for example, we've done with the British Embassy, where we compared, because they're an actual island and we're an energy island. So we compare markets. We bring in academia, we bring in investors, we bring in startups, and we do a compare and contrast. We did the same thing with Japan, Europe, Africa, North America. So that's what we do. And then we have a Global Investor Summit. We have sub-communities as well, Ignite Academia. So then we want to take the next generation and give them the ideas. Say, these are the problems today. These are some of the solutions. Now you go figure it out after you finish your education and you figure out these solutions. Women in energy. Statistically, I think we know that women are less represented in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So we give them a way to support each other, and they have their own events. So that's basically Ignite the Spark in a nutshell. We have we're close to 2,000 members over WhatsApp, LinkedIn groups, Facebook. So we have all that information out there.
Congratulations. Must be really exciting to be at the helm of an energy community in Israel. What would you tell investors who are based in New York, who are interested in investing in energy startups in Israel, where to look, what's the emerging trends, and what they need to know about?
So recently, hydrogen has been a big one. Hydrogen is definitely there. H2 Pro is a company here that just had a couple great rounds with a nice group of investors. So hydrogen, a lot of it has to do with Industry 4.0 as well. So making sure that your air compressors are running optimally, that your coolers are using. Battery storage is another one. That's great. And alternatives to it. And as well, because that feeds into EV and the market of electric vehicles. So I would say those three. And then in general, when it comes to energy tech, patient capital, that's the biggest thing. Strategic partnerships and patient capital. This isn't a SaaS or software company, cybersecurity, that you're going to see a return on investment within a few years. This is 5 to 10 years that you're going to have to wait, and then a company is going to go. The beautiful thing that we saw that I'm extremely proud of, right before the pandemic, we held with our crowd, which is the largest investor group here in Israel. We partnered with them during the Global Investor Summit, and we did a side event focused on energy tech with top investors that are with them. And we highlighted 9 companies that are various rounds of funding. The beauty that we saw, so we have goals of obviously growing it, and now we're seeing the returns. We've had 3 of those companies are now post-IPO.
Wow.
So seeing Tiggy Solar, Chakra Tech, and Nostromo go post IPO, that's something that's beautiful. There was Eco Wave Power that's now on the NASDAQ recently. So there's these companies and they're growing, but it's going to take time. Even if they go public, some of these projects are years because the regulatory aspect, the actual manufacturing that you're going to have to do, and the installation of these various technologies. It's going to take some time. But there's the Bird Foundation, which is does bilateral funding for the U.S. and Israel. So there's ways that they can connect partners. There's Horizon 2020, which are grants as well that you could work with Europe. So there's a lot of collaboration, and so it's not your typical investing where you just have you maybe for your pre-seed seed, but then when you're actually looking to deploy, and it's finding strategic partners.
Mm-hmm. How can people help you grow this community?
Just talk, conversation, come together. That's like the big thing. In our WhatsApp groups that we have, it's yes, we post articles, but we post the articles there for people to have dialogue. As I mentioned before, it's a town hall. So these are all experts in their own way. They're much smarter than me. They're electrical engineers, they're chemical engineers. They have so much more experience. Again, I'm 29. Most of the people that are CEOs of these companies are in their 40s or 50s. So listen, allowing them to guide the conversation. So there's people that have been in this field investing for 20, 30 years. So there are people that we bring on and we allow them and give the platform to speak. And then we want people to network at the end of the day. That's the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's from an outside perspective, it's obviously coming and learning and then having conversations and staying in touch. And we just want to promote these conversations, even if it's never going to happen, it's going to fall through. The fact that you may have a different perspective, or you have a perspective about what the energy market is in. I was just in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and moving from oil and gas, and then being able to come back and tell a couple startups, hey, there's opportunities for you to relocate because they have different programs for you. So it's just compiling resources. And we provide these resources. We have something going on right now called Energy Pioneers of Tomorrow. And that's people that have worked in other sectors. And then we're teaching them about the energy market. And we're also providing them with some in-kind services from law firms, from VCs, CVCs, from Innovation Authority, academia. I help them on public speaking. That's my big thing, communication, as I keep harping on, because I'm the one on stage, usually the face. So I work on communication, first impression, soft skills. I think that's one of the most important things that people forget about and also looking at cultures. That's the big thing. We did an event with Japan. The Japanese culture and the Israeli culture couldn't be further on the spectrum of how people as you spent time in Israel. And it's very different. Giving a gift, who do you give your business card to? There's some of these things that you don't really look at or know without doing your prior research. And it means a lot that you're even trying. A simple greeting to someone within their language and saying, how are you? And being able to respond, that's a huge effort, and it's gonna be a lasting impression.
I couldn't agree more. Tell me about your public speaking skills. How can we get better as public speakers? Because I really want to get better at it. Right now, I'm speaking publicly, arguably, on the podcast. And when I listen to it and I listen to the recordings, I sound like I'm mumbling. I am unhappy with the way the words come out of my mouth. I feel like I'm not pronunciating the words clearly. So I'm trying to be really intentional right now with slowing my speaking and letting the words come out clearly. Because if I was just talking like you, if I was just hanging out at the house while I'm sitting on the couch, I'd be talking like this, and it doesn't come out nicely on the podcast, which I assume is the same on stage. What are your thoughts?
Pause and think. There's nothing wrong with that. You can have pauses. As I pause right there, I'm thinking about what I'm going to say. I'm giving myself a second to breathe, and then I can come across clearly, and I can really put emphasis on a point. Pauses are great because I'm holding your attention. Is he going to say something? What's the next thing he's going to say? And then it's the simple training yourself. How now, brown cow, unique New York, and just doing it more. Learning, I'm very different. I don't write anything down. The only thing that I'll have is the names of whoever might be speaking whenever I'm at an event, and who I'm going to be introducing. I'll have their names and I'll have a general sense of what I'm doing. Most people don't do that. You'll need to, and you have to figure out what works for you. Are you going to fully write out a speech? Are you going to do bullet points? Are you going to have how are you going to break down the segments? And everyone's preparation is going to be different. I don't think, and you have to figure out what your preparation is. It's working with people as well. As I mentioned, I'm not the smartest in the room. So I ask people questions. I reach out on LinkedIn to people that are in the same kind of realm of public speaking. They've done TED Talks, they've done this. How do you do it? I think the biggest issue and where you have the fear for some people in public speaking is you don't feel like an expert and you have imposter syndrome. Why am I on stage? Why should people listen to me? It doesn't matter at the end of the day if people listen to you. Are you happy on stage? Are you comfortable? Then people will listen. Putting a smile on your face is one of the easiest things that people can do. If you talk and put a smile on your face, that's all that really matters, because you're having fun. It's the body language, because then your shoulders are up, you're holding the paper and you're shaking. So don't hold a paper. You could have these little small things that you change that I think are simple, but you need to work with people. And communication skills, I think in 2021, I think we lack even in our personal life, communication skills. I think everyone should be in therapy. That's just my thought, or have a mentor, or have someone that you can really confide in that has wisdom. Because you can kind of get, I'm just gonna say it, that shit out of your head, that right between your two ears, because the self-talk that's going through, you could be on stage, or you and I are speaking right now, and your brain is somewhere else. So you kind of have to release it. You have to alleviate the pressure, because everything is now building up, building up, building up, building up. And then all of a sudden you disassociate. And then you forget what you wanted to say. And then the nerves kick in even more. And then it's, what do I do? Yeah, so I think it's just being open, and being open with others, and knowing also that people will have their own opinions, and it's okay that they have their own opinions. I have an opinion, you have an opinion, we're interpreting the situations differently, and the messages that we're trying to convey and they're conveying and processing, but it's okay. There's no, you don't have, you need to, you're not going to get, I don't believe that you should get canceled for it if you say something, because it could be a slip of the tongue. It happens all the time. My father came from the sense of think before you speak. That's because we grew up in the house with Spanish. So I grew up with Spanish and English. So it was big upon think before you speak, just because we're translating languages. And I might be thinking in Spanish or English. So you need to think for a second, pause. It's okay. And I think that when it comes to the Jewish side and the German side, it was instilled in us that you need to work hard. You need to give so much effort into everything and work, 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 work. But then I'm able to take my Mexican side and pause for a second. And then that's also through self-care. And if you really take care of yourself as much as you can, then communication is something that's easy.
¿Hablas español?
Can. I wasn't thinking, and I'm in Israel right now, and I just said yes in Hebrew. I wasn't thinking.
That's hilarious.
Sí, hablo español, entiendes todo. But like, I just went, I didn't think. See, it was a slip of the tongue, and like, I just started Hebrew, and I heard myself say Gen, and then I was like, wait, I'm doing it right now.
I loved
but
your
it's okay. And
advice on smiling on stage. I think that was the best words of wisdom you could share with someone who's anxious about going on stage. If you could just smile and take a pause right before you start speaking, that will carry you so far. So I'm gonna snippet that.
yeah,
I'm gonna chop that up.
perfect. I'm happy. What made I want the people to hear from you for a second. Why did you start this podcast? Like, it intrigues me. I want to, because this is communication. This is something I'm now going to get more into. Maybe not. I'm going to stay within energy tech, but also get more into public speaking and interviewing and being a part of this realm as well, and teaching people how to do it and consulting. But why did you do it? Like, what was like the deep down reason, and why do you continue to do it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I started the podcast because I saw other people podcasting and I was listening to their podcasts like Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, Lewis House, Tony Robbins, Brendan Bouchard, people who I think are shedding phenomenal wisdom about how to grow personally, professionally. And I had a itch on my shoulder to also communicate and share my feelings and share and put other people on a pedestal and invite people who in my community who I respect and admire and interview them and give them the chance to share their story and all their insights with my audience, with my community, those listening. And I'm at episode 77, I believe, with you, and I still have a lack of clarity on why I'm doing the podcast. I know that I need to have a niche audience, and I should focus on a specific topic. Like, I'm gonna only talk about crypto for people in the United States from ages 25 to 35, and the goal is to upsell them on my products and services through my email campaigns and gather their email. Like, there's a whole business behind gathering attention, but and I'm aware of that, but I'm not doing it for that yet. Like, I'm aware that, like, of course, by building a brand and getting attention, I can earn income and monetize that down the road. But I've learned that it's going to take me thousands of episodes to get to that point. And it's like, are you going to put in the work and do thousands of episodes before you get there? If that's your real incentive. And it's not. Like, I'm not doing this, I'm not recording this podcast with you at 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning to make money. It's because I like talking to people, I like engaging, I like learning, I like, instead of scrolling or watching YouTube or watching TV, I am on TV. I am the
Doing
act.
it yourself. Doing
Yeah,
it yourself.
you're creating. We're
That's yeah. So that's the biggest thing. You may not know where it's going at all, and you're going to have to adapt. I lost my father. I've lost all my grandparents. I've lost my uncle. There's times that you feel lost, and then you sometimes look at your friends that are getting married. They just bought a house. They have a very steady source of income, and these are things that you may be looking for, and you may not know how to get there, but you just need to keep trying. That's the big thing. Going out there and just fucking doing it. It's like you just, no one can tell you, don't ask for permission. Don't go and think like everyone, because it's ingrained in our head. We had to ask permission to use the restroom growing up in class. Constantly. You'd have to get a hall pass, a bathroom pass, just to go to the bathroom. Why are we being taught that? Because then it's creating long-standing where I need to ask for permission to do things.
Yeah.
I have friends that are here in sales in Israel, because there's so many companies, a lot of internationals do sales, SDR, BDRs, BizDev, and so they have ideas. And even though you have targets and KPIs, and you're only supposed to be working with this market, maybe. So if you really like the company and you want to grow, go home at night and research on another market and come with a full proposal. Like, you could stay within that safe realm. You don't have to go out and be an entrepreneur and build your own thing. You could, I highly suggest people go ahead and do that. You see a problem within your company, go home extra hours if you want to stay within that company because you think the growth and you really like the product and you believe in the mission You enjoy the cooler talk. You're there, like this, like scuttlebutt is great. You go hang out with your coworkers after. But also if you want to grow, because you're then taking on another project for yourself. You're then just keep building into yourself, building into yourself. I have a friend right now that just moved for her first job into marketing. She hates the company, but now she's going to stay for a little bit, see what she can do, maybe go work in a different position within the company. Or now she's figured out that she doesn't like marketing, but maybe she would like marketing in a nonprofit or in a different sector, or she has now some more skills that can translate. So what I said to her is, go and look at other job postings, see what other positions you would potentially like, and then use that marketing position that you have right now to then get the skills to apply for the next job.
Totally. And another point.
So you could.
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off there.
No, go. I want you talking as well. I don't want to be harping.
No, it's all good. So another point on public speaking that I'm trying to focus on right now is to have conviction, not convince. It seems like a lot of people, when they talk on stage or they're talking on the news or talking with their friends, they're trying to convince and get their points across. But people have their own opinions and they believe the way they believe, and you're likely not going to convince them. The only way people really change their minds is through personal experience, not others' narratives. But if you speak with conviction, not trying to convince, but with conviction, and this is what I believe, and this is why I believe it, and that's how I feel, that goes so much further than just trying to get your points across in a convincing manner. And I don't know who said that, but I love that. I love
it. Exactly. I completely agree. It could be in so many different aspects. And when it comes to the professional aspect, and this is great advice that I got for an investor here. And we were speaking about it, and I asked, what can our startups do better? And he was like, you know how many pitches a day that I hear? And they're talking about benchmarks, they're giving me all numbers. I might remember one that was super interesting and was like, okay, you've already distributed this amount and you've done this, you've done that. Cool. Tell me the story and why it means something to you. Why your startup, and what is the culture around your startup? Why did you build this culture around your company? Yes, you could start all these different things, but you need to set and have these rules on the culture of a company that really are instilled by you, because then that's how you're a leader. People will follow you if they understand what the culture is supposed to be, not this CEO that sits in the office and never comes in. I'm not saying you have to go and have a ping pong table, but what is the culture of your company? And then from there, even if you're like, I try and work with like the software engineer who shouldn't be able to pitch, but if they understand the culture of the company, then they could speak with someone for 2 minutes about how much they love the company and have a smile on their face doing it. And that could just be at a dinner party or a Shabbat dinner or just passing by it. And someone asks, what do you do for a living? It's not just, oh, I'm a software engineer at a high-tech company. I'm a software engineer at this high-tech company that's doing this. The office is amazing. I like people. I like create something like that, because then it's back to the conviction. It's not just saying, oh, I'm a software engineer and this is what I do by day.
Love that. And another good point is to not be professional, be authentic. It seems like a lot of people in older generations, our parents, grandparents, it had to be very professional. Suit and tie, shake hands, eye contact, clean shoes, the very Wall Street, New York businessman or woman. And today's world, it seems like everything's about IG, TikTok, YouTube, the metaverse. It's the new era of communication and collaboration, and people don't care about your resume. I honestly could care less about someone's resume. I'm going to look at their LinkedIn, their Instagram, their YouTube, their podcast, their TikTok. That's way more educational and informative than looking at someone's one pager with bullet points about what they did on their resume. And I feel like if people could, and how do you differentiate yourself as a podcaster, as a YouTuber, as a TikToker, And I'm trying to learn it myself. I'm a real rookie. I'm like a few months into this, but it's clearly that the people who are the most successful are the most authentic. They don't they don't cut their flaws, their faults, their mistakes. They shed it all out there. Because people, what I like the most when I watch people is them making mistakes. I like to see their true self. They're, not like right now I'm wearing like a button down shirt. I should be wearing a hoodie because like that's what I
I mean, I'll roll up my sleeves for you. Like I'm covered in tattoos.
yeah.
I ride a motorcycle. I'll come in ripped jeans because it's extremely hot out, and here in Israel it's 35 degrees Celsius. I need ripped jeans so I have some ventilation so I'm not so hot. I have my nose pierced. I obviously we could tell early in this podcast. I swear, but it's a purpose. There's too much of it, and then there's I don't show enough of my personality.
Hmm.
My mom's worked for the same company for 43 years. She's only had two jobs in her life. She had one as working the front desk, and now she's been office manager, bookkeeper of a company for 43 years. I would identify as she's my mother, and I love her, but she's the old generation. It's just I go to work, I do what I have to do, right? And it's great. She provided an awesome life for me, gave me so many opportunities. But we conflict, my mother and I, because I want to talk about the emotions. I want to talk about things. I don't want just this is the way it is because the way it is.
Hmm.
Challenge it. Go against the system. It will get you in trouble sometimes. You will miss the mark. You'll be a little too off, but challenge things.
Yeah.
Challenge the people around you.
I want
Have
to
it.
I want to talk. I want to address that point. I feel like right now I'm a first year lawyer at a law firm. My job is to arguably focus on my work and keep my head down and stay out of the limelight and not put myself out there. That's definitely the traditional approach to succeeding as a first year lawyer at a big law firm in New York. And I'm flipping the switch. I'm posting every single day on social media a video of myself called Question of the Day where I'm addressing a
I
question.
saw that.
Yeah, and it's like definitely I know that if my father saw that or people who are mentors of mine who are old school are going to tell me stop doing that. That's a bad idea. You're bringing bad attention to you. But I disagree. I think it's a good idea to let people see me and my personality because our stories are what differentiate us. Everyone has a unique story. That's the only real difference between me and the other millions of lawyers in New York. And so how am I going to really build myself a business, a career? It's by sharing my authentic self.
And I think that's the beauty of Israel. It's much more of a horizontal culture than a vertical culture, professionally in the hierarchy. You will be friends with your manager. You have conversations with the CEO if it's a small 20, 40 person company, and you could bring ideas. But you also have to bring your personality. In Hebrew, it's chutzpah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not being rude, but it's kind of just going and doing it. Um, and I think that's what some countries, the Western society is like, is more mold, is kind of just be there, but not be there. I don't think people are always present.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that's one of the biggest issues that I find. You're not present.
Mm-hmm.
Being present in a conversation is really listening, having eye contact with someone, not thinking about the point that you want to prove. It's asking questions,
Mm-hmm.
talking,
Yeah,
debating,
I'm
and
guilty of
and
that.
you, no, but it's so if you feel guilty about it, then
Many times
work
back
on
in
it.
the day, I would be going to networking events in New York, and I would be like a maniac, walking up to people, introducing myself, shaking hands, collecting business cards, and the whole time I'm like a machine, just thinking about how many business cards can I collect. But I wasn't really trying to go deep on relationships. And I met someone who I didn't think was relevant to me. Let's say the person was a dentist, and I just was like, all right, you're not relevant to what I'm doing now. I wasn't thinking about how they are their own world. They have a family, of friends, a community, an audience. They know people that I don't know. Like every single person on planet Earth has immeasurable value to whoever you are. I don't care if you're Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, like you could be a
You're
billionaire.
a human, and you could walk. I truly believe. Like I was just in Tulsa doing this little trip, and they have an organization that tries to recruit people to come and move to Tulsa. I was speaking with the ex-mayor of Tulsa for about 20 minutes. Someone came up to me and said, "How could you, like, it's the ex-mayor, oh my," and she's very successful in everything that she's done. She's just a human at the end of the day. We're all just humans. It doesn't matter how big your CV is. It doesn't, none of it really matters. It's the bond that you can create with people. And what you were talking about in networking, for me personally, I think I enjoy much more talking for someone for 20 minutes than going all the way around. And surprisingly, I have social anxiety. When it comes to those small things, I can get in front of 1,000 people and talk on stage, but when it's a 5-person conversation, I freeze. And that's something that I know I want to work on more. One-on-one, I'm great, but 5 to 10 people, like trying to have a conversation, I get choked up
Mhm.
because I even fall into that pattern. I think some people are intimidating because they're so brilliant, and I need to prove and I need to be there. But just being there, you can ask questions. I think people relate that if you're asking questions that you're stupid, and that's a stupid question, but you're asking for clarity on something, which is important. But you want to make sure that the message that they're trying to convey is there. And also, if you ask that stupid question, that other people, that then gets your own brain moving. So then you maybe go home afterwards and you think about it, and then it has impact later.
Right. I love this. I love this conversation. It's very therapeutic, and we're analyzing human emotions, the human way. But I have to cut it off soon. I have to ask you because it's the Kristallnacht Memorial, and I'm going to the synagogue this morning at the Hampton Synagogue in West Hampton Beach, New York. The ambassador of Germany is going to be there, and the chairman of Yad Vashem is going to be there, and we're going to commemorate Kristallnacht, which is, for those who don't know, a night in Nazi Germany when the Nazis destroyed thousands of Jewish shops and synagogues, and it was a really historic milestone in the unfortunate events that followed that we all know about in regards to the Holocaust. So we're going to commemorate that today. So on a different note, Cody, if there was one thing you could do to improve this world, what would you do and why?
I would bring together, I would bring together people that would never sit in the same room together. Living in Israel, there's conflict that we all understand. There's BDS, there's Zionists. There's people on the left, there's people on the right, there's liberal Americans, there's conservative Americans. There's so many people that get stuck on one point of someone, and then they can't talk to them ever. I think we saw that with Trump a lot during his presidency. That was very polarizing, and the country's still polarizing, and the world, nationalism. In Poland, there was a protest, and it was an anti-Semitic protest that was happening. There's issues across the board, and so I want to, like, if I could fix the world, it would be initiatives everywhere just to get people in a room together. It doesn't, and a quick little moderator. There's something called the line game. I don't know. I learned it from the book Freedom Riders, and then they did a film on it as well. It was a teacher that was in LA and at a very low socioeconomic school. And she basically asked questions and put a strip of tape down in the middle. And how many siblings, if you have one sibling, step on the line. If you've lost a parent, step on the line. If you've been hungry when going to bed and not had food, step on the line. So then you learn what you have in common. You can see the differences, but the commonalities of humans, the one thing is that I think all humans have: do I matter? Am I loved? So I preach, give someone a hug, find the positive aspects in another human, and build a connection with them. They don't have to be in your inner circle, but you also don't have to hate them just on one fact.
I love your answer so much. I feel like if I was asked that question, I would have a similar answer of bringing people together who disagree. And through that connection, them changing and recognizing that they could agree on many things. And
Yeah.
let's stop being, the world is filled with so much hate. It's terrible. It's shocking to me how much hate and resentment there is in everybody walking by. All right, Cody, awesome to have you on the show. I genuinely enjoyed talking to you about various topics. So
Likewise. Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun. And hopefully either you in Israel or me in New York. And what I would say to you is really be present in what happens and when you go tonight and commemorate Kristallnacht, especially as coming from German and my grandfather having to flee and experiencing that. Really take that in and learn from it and hug someone next to you.
thanks for that. I agree. Amazing, Cody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Goodbye, my friend.
Bye.